Okay, we are now live and recording. Let me go ahead and share this with you. Welcome to Artemis, Archetype of the Huntress. Today we will be talking about the powerful virgin Huntress of the moon from ancient Greece. She is a very, very powerful goddess and archetype. And we will be going through a lot of different aspects of the goddess today and a lot of powerful information, which I'm really delighted to share with you. You'll see here on my share screen that there is a painting, and as part of the makeup of this welcome page, that is called The Bath of Artemis. It's one of my original paintings. And we will just go over briefly the class outline for the day. We will be doing a guided manifestation to begin. We will discuss the mythos of Artemis, her archetypal voice, ways to invoke Artemis, journaling prompts, and at the end of class, there will be an open forum. Wonderful. Now, to begin, I always like to start with invoking a manifestation meditation to call in the energy of the goddess energy we're working with. So I invite you to, if you're able to close your eyes, take a deep breath and get centered in the space of the moment. That's fine if you turn off your video. Get into a very quiet, centered space, and I will begin our meditation. Join me with one deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. We women join together in the sacred circle to honor and celebrate the presence of the archetype of the huntress within us. Artemis of the hunt, goddess of the moon, sacred midwife, and powerful individualist, be with us in this sacred space of unity, divine inspiration, and self-empowerment. Allow us to embrace the power of actively being in the space of celebrating and rediscovering our authentic selves so that we may better navigate the heroic journey that we are on. Great goddess with silver bow and arrows, wild and free, running with hunting dogs, communing with nature and the sacred, chaste power of pure goddess energy on your own terms. Share your wisdom with us as we look deeply within for enlightenment. Illuminate our true callings, the visions which inspire us to reach for the moon. We feel the rhythm of the dance of life. We celebrate the light in the shadows, the call of the wild, the sacred balance of the cycle of life. We are attuned to the heartbeat of the earth, running with a wild wind in our hair, singing the songs of the ancients in harmony with all women who hold true to their highest selves. We are powerful, we are strong, we are women. Artemis, we thank you for inspiring us to be heroines of our own stories. We join together now to share in this sacred circle harmoniously and with grace. Please take a few deep breaths and open your eyes when you are ready to join this sacred circle. Welcome. I'm so grateful to have you here as we discuss a very powerful ancient goddess whose influence and archetypal significance really does make an impact on women today. And I would love to get into that more with you and discuss all the ways that you might work with this incredible goddess energy. So Artemis is one of the ancient Greek pantheon. She is a virgin goddess, the Huntress goddess, who is associated with the moon, meaning that she helps guide the moon or is tied to it, but is not actually the moon goddess, who is Selene. So she is associated with it, just like her twin brother Apollo is associated with the sun, and he guides the sun across the heavens with his chariot. So hers presides over, maintaining that powerful cyclical energy of the phases of the moon and working with that in her goddess state. So she is a daughter of Zeus via a liaison, an extramarital affair on Zeus's part, which happened a lot in Greek mythology and was part of the creation story of several of the other major and minor deities in Greek mythology and some of the heroes and heroines. So she is the daughter of Zeus and one of the children of Titans, Phoebe and Coeus. Leto is their daughter. Now, she is not one of the pantheon of the Olympian gods, but she is a Titan daughter, just not the Titan daughter of Kronos and Rhea, who were the ones that created the main pantheon of the elder Greek gods, right? So she's from different Titans. So it's interesting to recall that when we think of everything that she goes through in order to give birth to her children by Zeus. Hera, the queen of the gods, is very, very, very powerful in the myths, and she presides over the sanctity of marriage, women, and so it's really an issue for her what happens with Zeus and how he creates all of these children out of marriage. It's a classic theme in mythology, and the gods being immortals, immortal, having all of this power, tended to kind of put forth their feelings and do things in a very strong and passionate way. They didn't run the risk of the cycles of life and death, most of them, Dionysus being the exception, but they had this sort of very clear vision of who they were and what they felt. So when Hera was mad about something, she was viscerally raging, powerful anger that would just like come out in all the different ways. So when she found out that the Titan daughter, Leto, was pregnant by Zeus, she was furious. So what she did was she said, and she made the earth around her and everything part of all of this through her magic. She said that Leto could not give birth on terra firma. She could not give birth on terra firma, firm ground, nor could she give birth under Helios, the sun. So you can imagine the stress that put Leto under, running from Hera, pregnant, trying to find a place where she could safely give birth to her children, and it seemed to be an impossible situation. But the amazing thing in mythology are all of the incredible ways that the magic of things would happen, and there happened to be a floating island. So when she found the Isle of Delos, the island itself was already floating. And Zeus created and helped her with this, a mist around the island, which shrouded and protected the island from view of Hera and of Helios, the sun. So therein was a loophole for her, but it was hard. She was in isolation and didn't have access to a lot of things. A lot of the other deities were fearful of the wrath of Hera, so they would not assist. So the midwife goddess, at the time, who was considered the midwife goddess, was not allowed to be there. So Aletheia did not go to the island to assist with the labor of Leto. Leto had to give birth on her own. So the firstborn was Artemis. And when I look at the myths, I clearly see they had to have been born in July on the cusp between Cancer the signs of Cancer and Leo. So Cancer, the sign of Cancer is associated with the moon, with feminine energy, right? And Leo is associated with the sun and masculine energy. So Artemis was born first, more than likely toward the cusp closer to Cancer, the sign of Cancer. And she, being very powerful from birth, then assisted her mother with the difficult labor she was having, bringing Apollo into the world. So Artemis then assisted her mother in labor, helped bring forth her own twin brother into the world, Apollo. And from that period onward, there is a shift. Artemis takes on an incredible power as a goddess of midwifery. She becomes a midwife from birth and is associated with this and this powerful myth of what she did for her mother. And she has a very powerful connection with her brother, Apollo. They're the dualistic, the masculine and feminine energies, right? So she being the ultimate, unbridled feminine energy, associated with the darkness, associated with the hunt, the mysteries of the moon, the cycles of the moon, associated with all that is powerful going inward, the cycles of the moon, the phases of women, childbirth, protecting of women and children. It's a very powerful part of her mythos. And then Apollo, of course, being Pi and Apollo, the one that's associated with the sun, bright light, golden energy, the healing arts, and music, of course. He's a musician. So they're very, very, very powerful sons of the children, rather, of the original pantheon of the elder Olympian gods. So they have a lot to contribute to mythology from then on. And at the ripe age of 4, little Artemis was, as you could imagine, a child with unbridled energy, very, very, very sure of herself from an early age, given the remarkable story of how she began and came into this world. She approached her father, sat on his knee, and said, I want you to grant me a few things, please. Like, make it so for me. And he was enamored of his little girl. She was just amazing. So he couldn't deny her what she asked. He promised. She asked to be an eternal virgin. She did not want to consort with the male archetypes and produce children. Not shocking given what she went through. She wanted to remain intact and have the ability to choose and do so. He granted that. She wanted to be associated with the moon, of course, and to be named officially a goddess of midwifery, which she did. And she also requested that she have virgin nymphs that were sworn to virginity, to serve her and to be her handmaidens and part of her mysteries and her sacred practices. He granted that. She also then asked to be able to wear hunting clothes and to be able to hunt in the woods and have the forests and grottos and sacred spaces in nature associated with her. And they are. So she had a lot that was gifted to her or given to her because she was just so incredible and, the apple of her father's eye. So she did have all of these incredible things given to her at her behest. And so she donned a tunic, and she had a silver bow and arrow set made for her. And she took to the mountains and forests and grottos with her nymphs. Pretty incredible. She is a goddess unlike any other in all of those attributes. Incredibly independent. Very, very secure in her particular gifts, her powers. She chose them and she stuck to them. Now, there is a part of her mythos that involves a male character. the blind hunter Orion was like a giant character, right? Very powerful, very incredible hunter, and kind of like her kindred spirit, you would say. They spent a lot of time together. They were very close companions, and she loved him, you know, and in that kind of companionship way. She definitely had feelings for him. And Apollo started to feel concern, and he went to Zeus saying he was fearful that Artemis was going to go back on her request for maintaining her virginity, like it was any business of his, but he was a little bit jealous. They had this sort of, there is a sibling rivalry and a little bit of competition between the two twins, even though they love each other. So there's always that bond. There's the who can do what best and who was the better archer. So he tricked Artemis, and he had convinced Orion to go for a walk out into the ocean and, you know, kind of set up this terrible situation. And at which point, you know, they had a little archery competition, and Artemis boasted that she could hit the rock out in the water. And unwittingly, she killed her companion. Apollo set this a terrible ruse up, and in her grief at losing her closest companion, which truly hurt her deeply, as you can imagine, she honored Orion and placed him among the stars, and that is how we now have, of course, the constellation of the hunter Orion. And it's one that we can always identify by his 3 stars in his belt, and it's very powerful in her mythology. So that's part of her story, and it's one of those stories that just, like, you know, had there been less competition, or, you know, had there not been such like that kind of competition between the siblings, it's possible that wouldn't have happened to Orion, right? That it wouldn't have been set up the way. But those are the ruthless games of the Olympian gods. Those are the sorts of things they would do because they didn't have the cycles to worry about. They were fixed and powerful and secure in who they were, and they manipulated situations based on their supreme, overwhelming magical gifts and powers. There wasn't a lot holding them back, but that definitely affected Artemis. So there's another interesting myth where we see Artemis and her power and her wrath as a feminine goddess coming out, not just in that situation with Apollo when she realized after the fact, where we see her deep sorrow and grief over this ridiculous situation that she was put in. There was a youthful human prince hunter, Actaeon, who had a hunting party and went out into the woods. And he was, you know, all the human prince kind of hunter type, you know, bravado, all of that. I'm the best, all of that. So he goes off on his own, and he happens to be out in the sacred territory of Artemis. And he comes across Artemis bathing with her nymphs in a pool of water. And he stays and he lingers and is spying on her willingly. Of course, he didn't go undiscovered. And Artemis couldn't have that. She couldn't have him going off and boasting to his hunting buddies, and the insult of him ogling her the way he was doing, which was not appropriate, given that she was a sacred virgin goddess and one to be respected. She then turned Actaeon into a stag and had him run off so that the hunting dogs would tear him apart. Again, vengeful wrath among the gods. There was no messing with that energy. You did not disrespect them. There was always a problem within doing so. And in Artemis's case, if her sacred practices and her sacred form and her energy were disrespected in that kind of a manner, she would correct the behavior. She is considered, and was considered at the time too, of course, associated with protecting women and helping with with labor and childbirth, and was honored as such. She had an incredible temple built to her, which unfortunately was destroyed. The Temple of Artemis was astounding. It would have been an incredible place to see. She was also known for not only being a protector and in that sense, but being a hunter and a lioness, a lion among women. If you didn't adhere to certain ways, if you didn't respect her properly, or if you as a woman were not behaving in a particular way of being that would be considered, good, true, genuine, authentic, and sticking to a lot of the principles that Artemis stood for, she would lash out and cause grief and destruction in her path, because that was Artemis. She's a huntress, and she would hunt you down, as well as just the animal kind, and cause issues in that respect. So she's incredibly revered. And when we look now at Artemis, as far as the archetypal significance of Artemis energy is concerned, she's incredibly powerful for us. When we had previous classes, we talked about, for example, Persephone being the embodiment of the inner child evolving into womanhood. Okay, so that's one way of looking at it. We look at Demeter as being the mother, Hera as being that powerful queenly energy. We look at Aphrodite as being the romantic lover of beauty and all of that's sensuous and incredible in human form or goddess form. But I'm talking from the archetypes within us, right? And then we look at Hestia being the sacred priestess and maintaining the hearth. They all have archetypal significance within us. Artemis is incredible to work with because she's independent, sure of herself. Her self-confidence is through the roof. She has an unbelievable willpower. She is true to herself. So that's where we come to working with authenticity, being authentic, and while working with Artemis energy. She's a wild woman goddess. I mean, she's one, not that she's a party girl, a wild animal in that sense. No. She is one who runs with hunting dogs. She's one who runs with stags. She is a lion among women, a lioness among women. Now, granted, I associate her more with the sign of Cancer because she's considered, the goddess of the moon. But as that cusp energy, a little bit goes both ways. See, Apollo is associated with the sun, and I can completely put that with the sign of Leo. But then he's also a bit of close to the Cancerian thing of being associated with healing and nurturing in that respect. So there's a little bit of each other within the other. It's a very interesting thing between those twins. But when we're looking at this, if you are working with in your life, approaching, how do I sit in my power as a woman without the influence of other people telling me how I need to be, without feeling that you need to be like that, you have to dim your light, like you have to conform or put yourself in a box, either by society, what other people are telling you to, what your father figures, your brothers, the men in your life, your spouse, or anybody else may be attempting to put on you. And then I'm not saying it even has to be in a domineering way. It's just, we as women attempt to be mutable. We move with the currents of our emotions. And when we feel certain ways and we start to develop baggage or the negative mental chatter that goes on, the monkey mind, we sometimes get stuck in these loops of self-deprivation. Sometimes we think we can't have the things that we want. We have to sacrifice and give some of those things up to nurture and take care of the situation we're in, or we're not worthy, that we're not okay to have this, we don't deserve it, or we're not good enough to have these things, that there's something wrong there. That is a negative, dark, shadow side mindset. And then when we want to break through and make those realizations for ourselves and find the willpower to move forward with self-confidence and energy, we call on Artemis. Because that energy with Artemis allows us to say, yes, I can make choices for myself that honor who I am, and then in turn will make me a happier person, a better partner, a more evolved family member, a better businesswoman, whatever it is that we choose to do. That Artemis energy will help us discover what needs adjusting and allow us to do that just by saying, this is where I am now. This is who I really want to be now. These are my core values are a good way of looking at it. Core functions within my life. These are what I am, who I want to be, what's sacred to me, and how I want to bring it about. When you can sit in that space and you use the Artemis energy to help fuel you, you will find it alleviated, this open, expansive, wild wilderness goddess of the hunt, just like there. I really think it's important too, while working with that, to follow the phases of the moon, the cycles, and what they represent. You know, the new moon, planting the seeds as they start germinating through the waxing moon, coming to fulfillment through the full moon, and tapering back off again with a waning moon. How we set our intentions with a new moon, and with the full moon as that comes around, when we release things and let them go, while also harnessing and cultivating the truer manifestations of what it is we were manifesting and intending with the new moon. There's a whole process to that. And in my case, and how I feel about it, it feels like a really great way to connect with Artemis. If you're able to track that in any way, that's really helpful. Also feeling associated with the tides as well, the pull of the energy, our waters, how we move as women, how we're pulled by nature, grounding and feeling connected to our root source, the incredible, wild, powerful, primal energy that comes from ancient blueprint within us is very, very Artemis. So if you can work with those things and discover that inside you have this willpower, this unbelievable, undiminishing self-confidence in who you are as a person, while you're on your path to manifesting better things for your life, your path to self-discovery and self-empowerment, Artemis will be there. Call on that energy and it will come forward, either internally or externally. And when I talk about being there, I talk about within yourself and bringing that energy out. But I want you to focus on external things as well. What do you see or feel that you need to call into your life? So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and share screen again, and we'll go over some interesting things you can work with. If you have your journal, it'd be great to take some notes, take photographs of the screen, but do recall I will be sending you this recording later. So moving on here, ways to invoke Artemis. So how we look about this literally in our lives, in a way to bring this energy up in ourselves in tangible ways. It's always good to have something that's kind of concrete to work with, I think, when doing this work. So manifesting the Huntress, goddess of the moon, to follow the phases of the moon, as I was talking about, being out in nature, especially the forests, if you're able to, but even just outdoors and doing some grounding rituals where you root your feet and plant your feet and feel one with nature. Those are really powerful things to do. Communing with animals in any method that you are able to, because they kind of can bond with you and become like your familiars, your animal companions. They're really powerful. If you don't have a pet, just kind of experience being among them in nature. Whatever little critters are around, appreciate them. Be grateful for them. We need them on this planet. Practicing being in the moment. Now, the art of being is not doing or having. At first, you have to be. If you can be in the moment and sit in that space and make that, quiet your mind and make those decisions for yourself that are based on your authentic nature and who you truly want to be. And that is not egocentric. It is not meant to be selfish or revengeful or vindictive. This is your purest, pure core part of your being that is authentically you. And I invite you to journal about that. It's very important to get in touch with those things. Who are you truly, and how do you want to be in the world? Trusting your instincts. When we think of Artemis as a huntress, it's really important to recognize that you need to trust your gut instincts or your psychic awareness of a situation. And if you're feeling things are right, you're probably right. If there's a twinge there that you feel something is off, that's probably something you need to work on or look at, or protect yourself energetically. Being attuned to the earth is very, very powerful. So working with that earth energy, that earth goddess energy, but also just feeling your connection on this planet and how powerful it is, and protecting what parts of it you can. Then use the energy of a huntress. When you are approaching new things or difficult things in your life, look at it from the perspective of hunting it down. What does a huntress do? What do you need to incorporate in your life so you can better do this? Be it tactical, plan things out, become an expert at all of the things that need to be done, the steps that need to be taken to bring these things into your life, and track it, embody it, and then celebrate it ritualistically when you do catch it, when you have hunted it down literally and figuratively and are bringing it to you. Honor it, celebrate it, make it important. So being authentic and empowered. Now that's an easy thing to say, but when you are being authentic to yourself and empowered by the acts you are doing in your life to bring these parts of yourself to light, sharing that energy with others, and that will have a huge effect on the people around you. You know, it really will. And that's coming from your highest self. As I say, none of that base energy, none of the mind chatter or the egocentric things or the dark shadows that we're working with. It's not about burdening others with your issues. It's about stepping back from the issues, being an observer, seeing what's really there, being one with who you truly are in your core, and working with that energy. So your items of power to work with the goddess for symbolism, things you might look for, serendipities, things you may bring into your life that you feel will help you connect with Artemis. Of course, moon symbolism, and it's all over the place. Bohemian style things, healing crystals, jewelry in the form of moons. I can help you with some of that. I work with that myself. Silver jewelry, of course, the metal silver is associated with Artemis. Moonstone, which of course connects you to the power and beauty and magic of the moon. Symbols and imagery of deer, stags, cats, dogs, lions, and wild animals. Those are all sacred to Artemis. For foods, you might look at using honey, dates, almonds, fine meats, mushrooms, and berries. Literally having the imagery, or wearing, if you can find something, a silver bow and arrow, right? Like in your jewelry or something like that, or decorating somewhere with the symbolism of that. Of course, there are actual statues you could purchase, replica statues of Artemis that will have the bow and arrow with her, and even her stag and some of them. So those are some great things to think about. You can also use essential oils, the oils of fir, like the fir tree, of course, lime, sage, and cedar are excellent oils to activate and work with that powerful energy of Artemis. So I'm hoping that all makes sense. Those are all really powerful things. I'm going to go ahead and move directly on to the journaling prompts. Journaling is so powerful. You can do so much with journaling, and with guided journaling prompts, it gives you the power to work your thoughts out, get the things out that are harder to look at without being asked a question. So you get the prompts, think about them deeply, breathe into it, meditate on it if you need to, and write it out. And think about, where are you feeling these things? What part of your body are you feeling them in? What do you visualize? What do you envision? What colors, what smells or tastes do you associate with what you're feeling? Really get into it, because that's very, very Artemis, being like a tracker, right? Like a huntress. So the first prompt is, how have I been compromising my authentic self, my Artemis voice? How does expressing my wild, uncompromising, powerful energy make me feel? What does the imagery of hunting in a forest under a full moonlight conjure up for me emotionally? What am I metaphorically hunting down in my life? How does being in solitude with my deep thoughts make me feel? I'll leave that share screen up for another moment while you jot those down. Any or all of them, take a photograph of the screen if you feel you'd like to, so you can refer back to those. Again, you will get the replay and the video recording, so you can always go back to that. But these are powerful things to think about. And be playful with it. There's something fun and freeing when working with that Artemis energy. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the share screen. So now that we have a whole overview of all of this and have gone through all of the different ways you can work with Artemis energy, or at least some of them, I wouldn't say all of them, I invite you to find ways that occur to you through the week too, and the weeks to come, that maybe I haven't touched on. Maybe something is going to occur to you while you're working with the Artemis energy, and I invite you to share that in Mystical Women's Circle in Facebook, my group. Share your experiences. Don't be afraid to go ahead and make posts there. I love it when people post their observations so we can form a dialogue and start a discussion about that there. But before any of that, let's go ahead and open up. Go ahead and unmute yourselves. Let's have our open forum and share some thoughts and ideas that you might be having regarding all of this information.
Yes, hello, and thank you.
Hello. Thank you for being here.
I was thinking about something.
Mm-hmm.
Artemis is known for being uncompromising.
Right.
I think it's interesting when you are like her, a virgin, and you don't have a husband or a man in your life. But I wonder, how can we be as a woman uncompromising with a man in our life, or even, yes, with friends or family?
Yes, that's a fantastic observation. And of course, when we look at this archetypal energy, it doesn't literally mean that we have to physically be a virgin to, of course, commune with the Artemis energy. And recall that Artemis had that incredible companionship with Orion. They were kindred spirits. So when looking at your connection with your partner, with your mate, if you're coming from it from the point of view of that Artemis energy, it may be that you need to bring some of that fun energy, shared interests, the playfulness, the companionship of a deep and true connection with your partner. And that doesn't mean it can't be sexual, because of course we're modern women, we live in a sexual society. I mean, it's not like we're not going to go and become chaste, people because we're working with Artemis energy. You understand my meaning. Of course not. It's not possible for us in that sense, but that doesn't mean we can't still honor and work with Artemis energy. We just transmute it in a different way. It's like taking aspects of her and working with it, but not feeling like we have to close off our bodies in any sense. And there are other virgin goddesses also, like, Athena, for example, and Hestia, whom we've already discussed. So it's I'm not suggesting anything of the sort. But what you can do in your relationship is recognize, are you in an unhealthy pattern? And I don't mean an abusive situation by any means, but are you in an unhealthy pattern emotionally where the monkey mind is kind of taking over and bringing up some shadow stuff within your connections with men in your life or your situations that you are in? And it can be with women too, because sisterhood and community among women with Artemis is huge. Like, that's a major thing. So where in your connections, in your relationships, male or female, are you maybe not being as empowered as you could be, as confident in who you are. And remember that vulnerability comes with all of this, of course, but being secure in who you are and your good attributes and the wonderful things that you do will empower your relationships, because you're giving the best parts of yourself and your energy to those around you with kind of this, it's okay. I don't need the approval of other people to be confident. I don't need to worry if I'm going to be criticized for these particular gifts that I use or this particular work that I do, because I'm okay with it first. I don't have to let negative comments from other people put me down or make me feel less able to bring it forward. Do you understand my meaning? So that's kind of like how you can use the Artemis energy in your connections with other people if you're having difficulty with it.
And being uncompromising is more than, it means probably like stay with who you are, with your true self. Uncompromising, yes. Like that, probably.
Yeah. Like if you want to, like, say, for example, one of your core values within, and I talk about that, like what things are deeply important to you that you don't care to sacrifice in your day-to-day life. For example, I intend to, like, you could say, be positive and joyful and live in the moment. Those are things that you are part of your core being. And if those are being compromised by a situation, how can you adjust that? Like, I am going to be a nurturing, loving person. That's part of my core. I am committed to joy, committed to authenticity, committed to being a good person, committed to being helpful to people who need it. These are the sorts of things to think about. I'm not talking about, like, you know, anything untoward when I talk about who you are in your core and what you want to use to core values and how you work with them. That's what I'm talking about. So if there's something in your life, or there are people that are pressuring you to change those in any given situation, you have to think very, very, very carefully if that's something that you want to do. And it may not be something that's helpful. And maybe you can go into a situation saying, no, this is who I am. This is how I present myself. And nothing you say or do is going to change that, because I have confidence in who I am. And, you know, like it or lump it, you know, that kind of thing.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. If that makes sense. I mean, of course, there are so many situations that would come up that we can't predict, where we're made uncomfortable by a situation. And I know we get into them. Like when we were working with the Hera energy, it was like owning the room, being powerful, empowered, and not letting other people's energy like take that away from you. And with the Artemis energy is like walking into a room and not letting the situation or whatever you're going into have you feel like you have to do imposter syndrome, where you have to change who you are to fit in. Like, that doesn't work for anybody, right? We don't want to have to like wear that mask of being like, oh no, I'm really something different, because it makes you more comfortable. Like, no. You don't have to do that. You can be kind and compassionate to people. You can have a differing opinion, and you can be solid in that and still be a nice person. You know, it's still not be a raging bitch on wheels just because you don't agree with somebody. You know what I mean? Like, there are layers to that, you know.
I also kind of think of Artemis as being like the goal setter, because you think of hunting, you have to take aim, right?
Yeah.
And you're concentrating very, you know, you're just almost single-mindedly honing in on, in this case, the prey. But I think that if we, you know, go beyond like actually, you know, literally hunting, and we think about this idea of, you know, you set goals and you know, work to achieve those goals, and you know, you do have to kind of deflect the negativity about, you know, your decision to pursue different things, and I think that Artemis can be really a powerful force in that aspect.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, where I refer to it, I'm working with the word hunt things down. Of course, I'm talking about not literally hunting, unless you like to literally hunt. I'm not talking about the literal act of hunting, of course. But yes, absolutely, goal oriented, tracking it down and bringing it to fruition. That's huge. Yep, for sure. So if there's something major that you are looking at making changes in, or decisions you have to do, or something professional in your life that you just need to grapple with, that's the energy to work with. That's like, yeah, I'm gonna own this. Not only am I gonna, do well at it, I'm gonna track it down, I'm gonna hunt it, I'm gonna bring it back, and I'm gonna be the glorious huntress that, totally achieved all of it. It's really very powerful.
I do have one other comment, like when you were mentioning Orion, right? When I was living down under, the stars are totally different, but you can see Orion. And so that was like what helped keep me centered when I was homesick. I was like, I would look at the stars and I'm like, I recognize Orion. So, because instead of the Big Dipper, you have the Southern Cross, so.
Yep, sure.
But Orion is always there.
Orion is always there, yeah, definitely. And it's a very powerful constellation. It's one of the ones easiest to pick out, other than like the Big and Little Dipper, for example. Like, boom, there's Orion. You can't mistake his belt.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, at the end, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I also like the fact that Artemis is so confident that she seems to get what she wants. And I believe those two things really go together. When we are confident and powerful within, the things that we really want will come easier towards us. That's a beautiful part as well, I find.
Yes, that's really beautiful to think about. So, if we all have the capacity to create wonderful things in our lives, that doesn't mean that things don't get in the way. It can be internal or external. We have challenges or obstacles that get in our way. So if you can work with that Artemis energy to overcome them, it will help with the boundless energy of self-confidence and your true energy within our wild goddess energy, which is really kind of fun to tap into. We need that. It's youthful too. I think of her as not being girlish, but being youthful, like vibrant, young, feminine energy that's I can do anything. So that's that aspect of her for sure. She's very potent. So I thank you both so much for being here. I hope you got some good information from this to work with, and that you will be able to work with this in the next few weeks. I will be adding more classes. There are some very powerful goddesses that I have not taught on yet. So there's some good archetypes to work with coming up, and just we'll be scheduling those soon. And I did pop in the chat. I know both of you are already in my Mystical Women's Circle, and I appreciate and thank you for being there. I have also added my link for if you happen to find value in this work and you would like to contribute to what I do and help me continue being able to do so. There is a donation link for tips. So that's wonderful and greatly appreciated. And aside from that, feel free to contact me anytime you feel you need to within the group, Mystical Women's Circle. Post your thoughts, your ideas, ask questions. I often post a lot of question prompts, so I invite you to do so as well. And I will be posting some this week having to do with concepts from this class. So now that you're working with it, you can, come back to it in the group and leave your comments.
The PayPal link does not work here.
It doesn't work there? Oh, really? Maybe you just copy it and paste it into your browser. Okay. If you can. Copy and paste. If not, let me try it again. Let me see if it's working on my end. Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay, hold on a second. I probably copied it. Thank you for telling me that. Probably got it wrong. Allow me to just pop off of here for a second. Grab that. Just a momentito. Let me see. All right, let's try this one. Yes, that's correct. I must have not copied it properly.
Yes,
I apologize.
that
Thank you for telling me. It's actually been one of those kinds of weeks where things are just not quite clicking the way they should, but you know, it's human error and technological issues comes up a lot. So again, I thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you again in future classes. I will be posting one very soon, and of course I will contact you directly and post in the group when I have it all set up.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful
Yes,
rest of your
thank
day.
you. Bye. See you.
Bye. Thank you.